is what are the strategies for the peace movement, and it is call out the war, unravel the propaganda, challenge hegemonic discourses, both Russian and your own state and American, call for a common security as opposed to a collective security, and link with people's movements, climate movements, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
We in the Stop the War Coalition here, and in alliance with the anti-war movement in the US and various other places, we've been organizing actions where we're actually, very specifically saying Russian troops must withdraw, but also saying no to NATO expansion, no to nuclear war, no to escalation from the West. And we had a very good demonstration in London yesterday. We had about 5,000 plus people, which in the current climate is quite a serious thing. And there was protests right across the country. We had about 50 protests in towns and cities across the country. And there were lots of protests in the US and in other places in Europe. So, I mean, there is another dynamic here. There is a kind of popular dynamic, which is complicated because a lot of the big protests are just purely anti-Russian and can be instrumentalized by the West, by NATO. But there is definitely, there is the possibility, I think, here, given the recent experience of war, and the whole question of, when they talk about NATO being a defensive alliance, I mean, who believes that? Who believes it after the experience of Afghanistan? Who believes it after the experience of Libya? Who believes it after the experience of Iraq, which wasn't actually a directly NATO operation, but was run by the people who run NATO? I think there's a widespread skepticism that can be, if we move quite quickly, can be mobilized, and that's what we're trying to do.
Now, building up on that and how we look at our peace movements, again, as you mentioned that in England alone, there were protests yesterday. We saw them happen in Goa and elsewhere as well, and which is where we basically come in when we talk about the anti-war assembly to spread the word that we definitely need to stop the conflict. And in order to stop the conflict, first we have to understand where it stems from, and that's where this panel discussion comes in.
But strategies are also important, and words are not enough. So we do need to come together. So one of the things that we were saying, since we are part, this event is also part of building towards Mexico in May. And that does not mean that all of us have to go to Mexico, but building towards the Mexican Social Forum, the World Social Forum in Mexico, which will be from the 1st to the 7th of May. Some will go, but most won't be able to. It's very far for us in Asia. So there will also be online events around that. So can we start the process? A lot of people have written, once we started talking about this, a lot of people have said, we would like to come in, organizations from all over the world. Let us restart the anti-war assembly, which was a major gathering in the social forums of the past. And can we now come together again and also bring in, because what happens is that Ukraine, because it is close to Europe, and it has gathered a lot of interest. There is a lot of discussion, and there is a general feeling that that is global, but somehow all the other things that are happening in our part of the world, the hotspots we all know about, and in Africa, in whether it's in Eritrea or Ethiopia, or even the Sahrawi Moroccan issue of in India, Pakistan, and South China Sea even. So how do we view these things? And I think these discussions are important. We can see clearly that we have different ways of viewing this and talking to each other, building some areas of consensus, naturally not on all, but what are the things that we can stand together on? So